Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. Today we're going to talk about solving equations using the division and multiplication properties of equality. All right. So we're going to solve 4 equations and we want to make it explicit which property of equality we are using. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's first begin with an equation where we have d divided by 8 equals 6. Okay, so my strategy that I want to call your attention to is what I call the fraction buster. So whenever you are given an equation, I recommend using the fraction buster. So let me write that down. Fraction buster method or strategy. And what I mean by that is your first step is to get rid of the fraction and then solve the equation. So we have d divided by 8 equals 6. In this case, we need to get rid of the 8, right, in order to get d by itself. So here we are dividing d by 8. What's the opposite of division? Multiplication. Hence, we're going to use the multiplication property of equality. So I'm going to write this again. D divided by 8 equals 6. And I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 8. The fraction buster in this particular case is 8. I'm going to circle that so that you know what the fraction buster is. Okay? That's the fraction buster, 8 in the denominator. So we rewrote the problem and multiplied both sides by 8. Now, 8 divided by 8 is 1, so we cross that out. And then we bring down d equals 6 times 8 is 48. And that is it. Hence, we have solved this equation using the division property of equality. Okay? Now let's choose another problem. We use the multiplication property of equality for this. All right, because we had to multiply both sides of the equation by 8 to solve the problem. All right, now let's solve a problem written a little differently. We have -5 equals n divided by 2. So what's the fraction buster? 2. Okay, so I'm going to circle that so you know that's what we're going to use. And then we're going to rewrite this problem again. -5 equals n divided by 2. And we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by the fraction buster. There we go. So what's 2 times -5? Positive times a negative is a negative, so that's going to be -10. And then here, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we cross those out, bring down the equal sign, and n. Hence, our final answer is n equals -10. Circle the final answer. All right. Okay. In this case, our strategy was, of course, using the fraction buster. And because we had to multiply both sides of the equation by the fraction buster, in this case, we used the multiplication property of equality. All right, let's see. Let's say we have a problem like this. Basic problem. 2 times x equals 20. Okay? Now, we need to isolate the variable x and get rid of the 2. All right. Doesn't look like these 2 up here. In this case, it says 2 times x. What's the opposite of multiplying x by 2? Dividing x by 2. So that means we're going to use what is called the division property of equality. Okay, so I'm going to write this again. 2 times x equals 20. We're going to divide both sides of the equation by 2 so that we can get rid of the 2. The opposite of multiplying x by 2 is to divide by 2. Right? And then we get x equals 20 divided by 2 is 10. And that is our final answer. Okay. Now, one more problem. This one will illustrate the multiplication property of equality. So let's go ahead. We have 3 times r divided by 4 equals 1 over 8. Okay. Now, in order to get rid of, to isolate the variable r, we have to get rid of the 3/4. Okay. So the opposite of we're going to use what is called the reciprocal. Okay. And we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal of 3/4. And by the way, I just want to build some vocabulary here. This number, going back to this problem, this number in front of x is called the coefficient, 2. And 3/4 is the coefficient. The coefficient is the number that is in front of a variable. So we're going to multiply r by the reciprocal of this coefficient, speaking the language of mathematics. And we're going to, whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other side of the equation. So let's copy this equation again. 3 times r over 4 equals 1 over 8. Okay. And we're going to multiply it, both sides of the equation, by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3/4 is 4 over 3. So let's multiply this side by 4 over 3 and multiply this side by 4 over 3. This side of the equation. Okay, so a couple of ways to think about it. You could cross these out. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 3. But you can also think of it this way when you're multiplying fractions. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1. Either way, we're going to go ahead and cross these out. Okay, and we will bring down the r. R equals. Okay. Now, when you're multiplying fractions, it's numerator times numerator. So 1 times 4 is 4 over 8 times 3 is 24. Right. Now, this fraction 4 over 24 is not simplified. So what we can do is ask ourselves what's the largest number that can be divided into the numerator and denominator, and that's 4. So we'll divide this numerator by 4 and divide the denominator by 4. Okay, when we do that, we're going to get, let's see, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Hence, our final answer, r equals 1 over 6. Always circle your final answer, okay? So we have successfully solved equations using either the multiplication or division properties of equality. And in some cases, at least in the first 2 problems here, we use the fraction buster method, all right, for getting rid of the fraction, okay, so that we can make the equation easier to solve. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page on my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.